Welcome to San Diego. I just landed, got all my gear together, went to the hotel, and walked out to Dog Park Beach to see how everything's going before I start my tour tomorrow. Let's get ready to watch day one of my Southern Tier tour and see how things go. Let's get started. Alright, it's day one, and we are on the bike getting ready to leave the Oceans Villa Inn. Before we do that, let's go ahead and give you a quick tour of the hotel room. Now, I had one of the villas, which is on the right-hand side of the facility, had two queen beds and a lot of room, which is what I wanted to spread everything out and make sure all my gear was set up properly and stowed in my bag properly. It did come with a little fridge and a little coffee maker, had a big area for changing inside the bathroom, and then a nice little stand-up shower around this door. So it was adequate for my one-night stay to get myself ready and organized, and you're just a few steps away from the start of the Southern Tier Tour and the beach. So let's go ahead and finish showing you this, and we'll get back on the road. So you'll see on the right-hand side, that is the hotel, and all we have is a small little one-way strip to get out to the beach. And it looks like at this 7 o'clock morning, people are starting to show up, dogs are starting to show up, and everyone's out exercising and enjoying the morning. It's about 50 degrees. Sun is just beautiful, very clear skies. So this is just a quick little, couple 100-yard bike ride through the parking lot, and then you'll just ascend to the top of this small platform, which is the start of the Dog Beach Park on the right. Once again, very clear skies and everything you need. I go take a few pictures, enjoy the view, and I'm getting ready to say goodbye to the Pacific Ocean and start my Southern Tier tour. So there's the Pacific with the dogs walking out to enjoy their day. And then looking out here to the east, you'll see the sunrise and where I'll be headed down the trail. Alright, I'm all set to start my Southern Tier tour. Change shirts to my free fly to get a little more comfortable. Plus, it's a little cooler out this morning. It's about 50 degrees, so this actually is a little bit nicer in the weather. Got the Pacific Ocean there behind me. Did a few pictures, and now we're gonna, unfortunately, have to walk the first 100 yards because it's full of sand, and then jump on the bikes and start going. So let's get started. Alright, it's official. I have started my Southern Tier tour. I'm a couple 100 yards in past the sand, and to the right you'll see the hotel that we stayed at. It is extremely convenient for the location you are for the one night. It'll serve its purpose of what you need to do. As you get on this, you can see it's a quite narrow path with trees overhanging on both sides. And as I was getting out here this morning, you can see people are starting to gather and walk out to the beach or take their morning walk or run. And so you just need to be careful about people coming in from that right side, kind of hidden from the trees, kind of popping into the sidewalk. And then, as you'll see here in a minute, there'll be an occasional pole in the way just to kind of block off if they need to do anything to keep people from coming through. And so just take your time, enjoy the view. It was an impeccable morning for what we had, and so you can get a pretty good pace on. The road is fairly smooth except for a few areas here, very well maintained. But for me, the first 5 or even 7 miles is really just a warm up. So my goal here is just to start working through my strengthening of my legs and stretching out, and kind of getting into the groove of what I need to do. And when I hit that midsection of the ride, I'm really comfortable in going. So you can see you just have a wide open landscape, and this will continue for the first 2 to 3 miles. You start off with this kind of openness, and then as you get close to the first mile, you'll start hitting some of the bridges and underpasses that you'll be a part of. And so, very easy start to the ride, and like I said, I would highly recommend getting out there very early. This is a Saturday, and so it's very quiet out here this morning. So Now, as you're coming into this first mile, you'll see there'll be San Diego's SeaWorld here to the left. The first bridge is coming up, and you'll see it's a pretty easy path to get underneath. All well documented with signs and kind of a line down the middle to associate your side versus another person's. Now you'll see here you do have to pay attention because there is construction going on. There is a lot of people out at times, and then you do have some homeless people who are camping underneath the bridges, and they do take some of the roadway at times. So just be careful as you go through each one of these because it can be unique for that specific bridge. But you kind of go down real quick and you pop back up and you're back on the main strip, going forward. So here's the second one that you'll be going under, and I think we've got a few bikers here coming in pretty quick here to your left side, and so this is where you just got to be paying attention and stay on your side of the road. And got a little construction over here to the right, and like I said, this will be kind of the beginning of the first 3 miles as you progress more to the city of San Diego compared to where you were in the start of the beach. As you pass mile 3, you'll be on just a nice off-road from the main highway, a decent size little alleyway for the bike, and because it's probably 7:30 in the morning, just very, very limited traffic. And so some other bikers still out here. I guess is one of the few times in the day I get to pass somebody. Most of the time when I saw bikers, they were passing me as I was going quite slow at times, but have some good momentum, have some clean road, and enjoy opening it up a little bit and stretching out the legs. Now you pop back in about mile 5 to T&C Park, and you're kind of getting into more of the downtown kind of San Diego area. You've got the tram above you. You've got a nice sidewalk, a little bumpy at times with the cuts in them, and this will go from a concrete sidewalk to an asphalt, kind of back and forth as you go through it. Once again, can get a lot of people out here to enjoy the time, so just pay attention to what you're doing. Through this time, my Garmin you can kind of hear it at times beeping at me saying, hey, go straight here and turn there. It was extremely handy, even though I still missed a few turns during this downtown section. It was very handy in letting me know exactly where to go through visual cues and through some noise with its different beeping sequences. So alright, from here you will start getting into more of the normal shopping areas and housing areas. I think we'll go through one more small section of a park, but the rest from this point forward is going to be a lot of roadway. And once again, it's extremely light traffic in the morning, so it was a very easy drive. Well, most of the roads in this section were very good. When you get to a few of the more industrial areas in this section, they do become a little bit rougher, but for the most part, you have good sides for the bike lane or an open area that's a shoulder that's big enough for you to bike into. Just be careful. There's a lot of stop signs and stoplights, and just make sure that you know where you're going and you're obeying those, so you don't get cut off by somebody. Alright, this is where you can see, as at this point, you're going to start seeing bike lanes just disappear. At times, you'll be in the middle of a bike lane and it'll just, stop for some reason, either because of the road conditions, the size of the road. In this case, it was the need for parking on the right-hand side. When you have parking cars like this, I had a few car doors swing open on me that were close to kind of knocking me off my bike, but it was it was fine. You just gotta be cognizant of that. There are some sidewalks out there, but many of them were pretty bumpy or patchy, and or cars were parked over top of them. So for the most part, I stayed on the road inside either the bike lane or the small shoulder that was provided. As the day progresses, does get much busier, and as you move into some of the more industrial areas, larger trucks and heavy trucks are starting to get out, and you'll see some of them pass at times. For the most part, people are good. They're giving me enough berth, but on occasion you can kind of feel the closeness of them as they come up on you. So. So at this point, we're about 10 miles in. I probably have taken a break. I was trying to take a break about every 10 to 12 miles. For me, that's about an hour of biking. And we're starting to get into a little bit of an ascent to get to our first big ascent here at about mile 13. So the road's still in great shape, but legs are warm. Sun's coming out. It's temperature's rising a little bit, but we're about prepared to get hit with a very large ascent.
Alright, coming up to my first big grade. Garmin just notified me. I've got a 1 mile, 266 section of elevation.
Alright, so this is the beginning of the ascent. You're basically getting up to the top of Mission Trails. This ascent is about a mile long, has 5 to 7, even 8 degree elevation grade, and for me this was the first test of my legs. Being from Texas, it was hard to simulate some of these short spurts, but so I had to do some walking. But we get to the top of Mission Trails, and I do have a separate video I'll link down below just on this. This was a beautiful trail. After going up such a big ascent, I had to do some walking on that ascent. But it was a great trail. It was fairly flat, rolling hills. And for me, it was just a great breakaway from what I just completed. So watch that other video. It's about 15 or 20 minutes. It's a full ride experience. Now, when you go through here, just know that cars can go through here, so you got to give them the right of way. There are motorcycles through here and plenty of walkers and bikers. But when you finish this up, you'll be completing about mile 17. Would recommend to get off the bike, shake the legs, and stretch out a little bit, enjoy a snack, and so you can get ready for your next big section as you move through the San Diego area. Now, as you come out of that area, you go right back into kind of a 4-lane highway, residential. You've got some schools you'll be passing, and you get into what is going to be a constant uphill, but through some rolling hills. So you'll go through some uphill sections, and then you'll get a nice downhill. But all of it is going to be positive elevation as you start your ascent in this area from zero where you were at the beach. And when you hit about mile 20, you'll be at about 1,000 feet. So, enjoy the nice roads, enjoy the view. But it's starting to get you prepared for some really tough uphill climbs in that last 10 miles. This is a great view of just going down, crossing a nice bridge, and really kind of seeing everything out in the distance of where you'll be headed to later that day. For me, I was starting to get very comfortable on the bike, but it seemed like every time I got into kind of a groove, one of those stoplights went red at the bottom of one of these hills, and I lost some momentum as I go up to the next hill. So that was a bit unfortunate, but it was a good learning experience. Every time I kind of hit a stop sign or a stoplight, just take a minute and get a drink, and this is where we cross over a nice bridge. Right after this, I enjoyed this road so much I was not even paying attention, and the Garmin was telling me to turn, and this road was so smooth and so available to just kind of keep going. I actually did an extra kind of half mile just enjoying this road instead of turning off like I was supposed to. So pay attention to where you're going. Like I said, during the downtown area, I kind of missed 3 or 4 turns, and not really a problem. The Garmin was very good at letting me know what to do and when to turn around and proceed to the right spot. So this will continue. You're kind of getting into mile 20 now. Getting into getting closer to moving over to the main route, going up the hills between 20 and kind of mile 30. This will be kind of the continual, look of the view. It's going to be some housing. It's going to be some parking on the side. You'll have an available bike lane or open parking area that you can kind of bike in. And at times those will just disappear kind of in a moment's notice. So a lot of crossing traffic, a lot of, availability of people kind of being around. So just be conscious of that. But it's a pretty easy ride through here. There are a few sections though. It gets down to a single lane, no shoulder kind of situation, and they just kind of pop in, and they'll go for sometimes a couple hundred yards, sometimes for a mile or two. And just pay attention to what's around you. And most of the motorists were very good about giving me the right way or slowing behind me until they could find an opportunity to pass me. But I think for me the big surprise was just biking along and enjoying it and kind of having your space, and then just seconds later kind of being forced into traffic and having to deal with what that looks like. I think we're coming into a section like that here. As you can see, we're starting getting into some of the foothills of what's going to be some of the larger inclines that we'll do here probably in the next couple hours. You can see I just switched over. I used to have a nice bike lane, nice road. The road becomes a little bit more bumpy, and I'm kind of forced right into a double S curve with really no shoulder. And so as you get more into the mountains and into the desert, some of those shoulders are pretty sandy, and so you really got to stay more on the inside of that line compared to the outside, and just got to make sure you're keeping away from those cracks, because between the sand and the cracks, if you hit one the wrong way, it could put you down on your bike. So while this was a kind of a no bike path lane area, like I said, there was still plenty of rooms for cars to pass me. I think the speed here was about 35 or 40, so it wasn't anything too dramatic, but it does feel very narrow when you're on the bike, even though this view doesn't look too bad. So all right, so we are getting deep into the 25 mile, 26 mile range. There's a few spots to stop and get some food along this route. Would recommend doing that before you cross over the major highway, so you can, as you do that, you'll really kind of be in a less densely populated area, and just you'll go through some 5 to 7 mile areas which is less services. So make sure if you find a place that you like, you stop and get something to eat, hit the restroom and do what you need to do. But and then every time I found a good shade tree, about every, like I said, 8 to 12 miles, I would make sure that I would pull over and just take a few minutes and stretch out those legs. Once again, at this point you are getting more climbing than descending, and hopefully your legs are warmed up to that. Nothing outside of that one big grade around mile 15 to 17. Most of the stuff is pretty small grade, 1 to 3%, maybe an occasional 5. So, I was able to bike all of this without a problem, but quickly you'll see it does change pretty dramatically. So. That was a great example. I mean, most of the cars did great, slowing down and stopping, but occasionally a car like that really feels like it's coming right at you, and some do roll right in front of you. So, those side streets and people popping out of driveways, just make sure you're on the defensive with that. So, up here is a great example of some beautiful shade tree after hitting a bunch of open area. It was a nice, cool spot. Had a nice person here just selling some flowers on the side of the road, and I stopped just on the other side of her to take a 15 or 20-minute break, eat a little snack, and stretch out my legs as I start getting ready for the next big ascent here. So we're coming up to I-8. We're kind of been running parallel now with it for a few miles as we come into the major hike up to Alpine. So you've hit about mile 28, getting into, like I said, just some more deeper ascents. Through this area, you're going to move from, kind of every 5 miles being maybe 100 feet of elevation to every 5 miles to being 200 or 300 feet of elevation. And while you still get a few downhills and to enjoy, you're always moving in the upward direction. So, just pace yourself appropriately. I think at times I got myself going a little bit too fast and a little bit too aggressive up hills, and that, as I got closer to Alpine, really forced me to, stop a lot more than I wanted, slow way down in my duration of, kind of what I was doing, and ultimately forced me to walk some of the steepest of the grades, which in that area can be, a mile long at times. So listen to your body, pay attention to the road, and, enjoy the view, because it's been this is the first time I've been through San Diego on bike, and, it was just a great experience to kind of see everything and, take it all in. Now, for reference, in addition to using my Garmin, I have the Adventure Cycling Association app on my phone, and so it was really able to tell me kind of spots to stop, if I need to stop for food or a bike shop, or kind of where the next big incline was. The Garmin was very good about showing me where to go, and it could have different views on elevation gains and kind of the next few miles. But the Adventure Cycling app was something I looked at pretty constantly to make sure I was aware of what's coming ahead, and what was an opportunity to stop if I needed to. Going through the city, it was a little bit easier because it was all pretty available, but throughout my entire trip I was very excited about that Adventure Cycling app. It was really an unsung hero for the several days that I needed it here, as I was a part of the kind of the first map of the Adventure Cycling Southern Tier route. Now you'll see right here in front of me, we're about ready to cross over into mile 30 and hit some real elevation gains. And so you'll see on the Garmin here, I'm kind of down where that bottom left section is at the bottom, and I have one more downhill that I'll show you here in the next video, but it's straight up, right? Kind of that flat section in the middle is going to be Alpine, where that deep bright red is where I'll be camping up at the top of the mountain. And then all the way to the right, that is Pine Valley. And I didn't get all the way to Pine Valley. I got to just before we were required to stop before hailing a bus to take over a section that we couldn't ride for a road closure on the main I-8. So I've got about 10 miles, maybe 12 miles to go. But you can see the vertical ascent is fairly extensive. I've done about 1,000 feet at this point of elevation, and I've got about, at this point, probably 2,500 to 3,000 feet to go. And then there's the last bit I'll do tomorrow morning as I cross over. And so you're right next to I-8. You're on the southern side. And surprisingly, these side roads next to the main road do get fairly busy. And so you've got a decent amount of traffic. You've got a reasonably good shoulder to ride on. There is sand coming off, occasional rocks, and some debris at times, but for the most part, they were pretty well maintained, and we were able to maintain a good speed. For me, going downhill, I tried to keep it, no more than 25 miles an hour, and uphills was anywhere between 4 and 6, maybe 7 miles an hour, really depending on the grade. So this is my last big downhill section, and then it's straight up the mountain we go. This is another great example of just things I wasn't prepared for. Is there's a sign in the middle of the walkway there that they really checked to make sure there's no cars behind me. The one thing over the next several days that I really learned is, that side that we're required to ride on in the shoulder or bike lane, many times was the area where they put, detour signs and, construction areas, and, sometimes did work. And so you really need to be looking ahead and making sure that, your ride is unobstructed, and you're coming from behind. If you had to move over, you either had the room or could stop in time. There was a few times I had to hit my brakes pretty hard and stop because the traffic was too much for me, and I just couldn't get over in a safe manner. So just be aware. There's plenty of opportunities for things on the side of the road to kind of ruin your day. So go at the pace that's comfortable for you. And as a novice rider, as I was, many of these things in my neighborhood were just less of an issue. And coming out here to the main roads for the first time, I got to experience them, and they did wake me up a bit on how to pay attention to the road. So now we just completed our next big downhill section, and we start climbing up this hill. And as you remember by the Garmin, there's really 3 colors that it provided me. Green, kind of being flat or low elevation gain. Yellow was kind of between 1 and 3, maybe even 4% grade, and then red typically was 5% or more. And the way these mountains worked is, I could bike a good section of them, but as soon as I hit that 5% grade, and many times up to 6, 7, and even 8%, it just became too much. I was burning my legs out, and it was hurting my overall, endurance on keeping going. And so I started walking, and 2 reasons. One, it saved my legs from the biking perspective, but also it just gave me a different stretching of the legs. So instead of just sitting and kind of recouping, the walking my bike had kept my momentum moving forward, but it also stretched out the legs in a different way that really helped them get prepared for the next big section of bike riding I would do. So this would kind of be the piece for the next, kind of 6 to 8 miles through Alpine and up to the casino. It was, climbing hills, and you bike what you could, and you rested in the shade, and then you walked the rest. Alpine was a great place to stop, hit a convenience store and got some Gatorade to refuel, and just kept pushing ahead. Just know that Alpine really doesn't have many services from the standpoint of hotels, and many times there's activities up there, and they're typically booked out. So the campground was kind of my primary place to stay, and it is about 4 or 5 miles past where you are in Alpine. So just know that it's a pretty big grade. You're from where you start at the bottom of that hill to where you'll end up at the campsite. It will be, less than 10 miles. It will be somewhere in the range of about 1,500 feet of pure elevation gain, maybe 2,000. There is some rolliness to the hills, so I think total elevation is closer to, like I said, 22 to 2,500. And so it's a lot to take in. But when you get to the top, you do hit a beautiful flat prairie, and you're on the reservation. You just passed the casino. I actually crossed over before the casino and biked through the casino. It saved me an extra mile of backtrack, and then you come into the campground. Now, if you decide to come to the campground, you don't have a reservation, and you're doing it that day, just make sure you call them early enough so they can put your information on the side of the door, because they do shut down the main store at 5 o'clock on most days. So I was coming in about 5:30, and they left it on the door, and they don't give you a badge to go through the lock gate. You just kind of weave your way through the side here, and they've got a walking area. To the right there is a pool and laundry service. There's some showers at the main area, but they put me in a great location kind of by myself, and I had a shower and bathroom area just about 100 yards from my campsite, and my campsite was kind of secluded by myself from all the RVs, so it was a great little spot. Unfortunately, after all the climbing and biking all day, this was my last little climb up this small little hill and then back down to the campsite. Now, there was very little noise out here, so you should get a great sleep. And this is really your first day of biking like this, and for me, it was a great night's sleep. So, but it was very quiet. It was very dark. Um, a very clear night, so I was able to really enjoy the rest of the evening, cook a nice little dinner, and enjoy the night. So that was the last of the RVs. Just to the right here is where the facilities would be, and right in front of you, underneath those trees, would be my campsite for the evening. Now I have my bike there. You got a little table, and I have a freestanding tent, so I was able just to lay it out there with no top and didn't worry about staking it in. There's just a slight breeze out. Behind me was this beautiful waterway. It was a nice little creek, gave me some good ambient sound in the background when I was sleeping, and you'll see the facilities there just to the left, and my bike and campground setup. So you can see there's a couple hundred yards away there were some RVs, but I was down here by myself, so it was a great little ride. Now overall, biking was about 6 hours, a total of about 43 miles. I think I ended at just about 5:30, so my total duration was just about 10 hours of actual duration, with about six of that being biking. Average speed about 7.6, and my total ascent up to where the cutoff was for the bus was 3,300 total ascent feet. So pretty big ride for day one, but I still got a pretty big inclination to get to Pine Valley on day two. So overall, the Garmin does a great a view of kind of the path I've taken, and you can see by the color coding where I had slower or faster areas. And so you can see I started off at really good paces. That first blue section underneath the 52, that's the first big incline and my first time walking up a mountain. And then you kind of hit your ups and downs as you go through, but as you get to the I-8, that's where you hit your large inclination of the mountain. So you go from about 1,000 feet there, all the way up to where I was. I think like I said, you're about 3,000 feet in the mountains. So hopefully this was a good day one video. Shows you kind of some of the details of what I went through. And we'll sign off for now, and we'll show you day two here in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you get a chance, please share, subscribe, and like the video. Have a great day.